Welcome once again to Lehto's Law. Here's Steve Lehto.
I almost wasn't here today. It wasn't a near-death experience. It was jury duty. Jury duty. I got the big envelope in the mail from federal court, the Eastern District of Michigan. And I looked at it and said, uh-oh. And I actually got it about a month or so ago. And it said there's a 2-week period coming up that we want you potentially to serve on a jury. And so here's the thing. I, as an attorney for the last 31 years, have selected juries and conducted jury trials. And I've also been now notified of jury duty 4 times. And yet I've never gotten to sit on a jury. And some people are going to say, Steve, lawyers never get to sit on juries. And before you make a statement like that, you should realize that's not true. Because I personally have selected juries, and I've left attorneys on the juries. And I know other attorneys who've served on juries. So there are some people out there who might not think that's a good idea, but it happens. So I want to walk through this with you because I know a lot of people out there have got questions about jury duty. So here's what would have happened to me had I been at the federal court right now instead of talking to you. From the United States District Court, Eastern District of Michigan, dear prospective juror, that's me. The court realizes the COVID-19 pandemic has resulted in difficult and challenging times for us all. But even in such times, the judicial system must continue to function so that the laws of the United States are protected. Jury service is an indispensable part of the system. We want to assure you that steps are being taken to protect your health and safety. And then it talks about how they're going to make you and keep you safe in the courthouse with all the steps they're going to take regarding COVID and CDC and so on. And then they say, by the way, it's important to understand the list below is unique to the current pandemic, and individuals that fall within one of the categories listed below may qualify for temporary pandemic postponement. Now, there are some people exempt from jury duty. We'll talk about that in a second. However, they're saying right now because of COVID, more people are exempted, such as people 65 years and older, people of all ages with underlying medical conditions, and then they say they will need some kind of verification on that. And then they tell you that there's a juror qualification questionnaire that must be completed and submitted as part of this process. And they say that if you want to get a postponement, you still have to fill it out and submit it. And so what you do is you go online, and there's a portal at the court website, and you go in there and you put in the information to give you the specific participant number and so on, and you fill out a juror questionnaire. And I can tell you that when I first got out of law school, I remember doing a jury trial in 1991 and going to the court. They said, yep, we're going to have a trial today. You guys are going. And I was one of the attorneys for one side of a civil case. And so when we were told that there's going to be a jury pool brought in to choose jurors from, they gave us a stack of juror questionnaires that were numbered. And they'd actually say, juror number 1, and it'd have a bunch of information about them. Juror number 2, bunch of information, like what they did for a living. Are they related to any law enforcement officers, things like that. And I remember actually flipping through the paper and saying, oh, okay, juror number 4 here, it says you're a teacher. What do you teach? That kind of thing. So, Office of the Clerk, United States District Court, summons for jury service. And this is a summons. And people often ask me about this. They say, Steve, if I get one of these things in the mail, can't I just throw it away? Technically speaking, it is a summons. A summons is a legal court order summoning you to court. Now, if you say you don't get it and don't show up, depends on the jurisdiction and the court. But some courts will follow up the summons, if it's not answered, with, an order to show up and show cause why you shouldn't be held in contempt. And I know people who think that's wrong, but the point is that a jury is something you're entitled to under the Constitution. And if you ever get charged with a crime and you decide to go in front of a jury, you're going to want jurors to show up. Okay? So you have to understand this from both sides. And so, like I said, to me, having conducted jury trials, I feel the need to answer and respond when I am summoned for jury duty. The U.S. Constitution guarantees all people the right to trial by an impartial jury. That law requires your service. Terms of service here, 2 weeks. It was a 2-week term. I could have been called on any one of the days in a 2-week period. It says location, a jury assembly room, federal building, and it gives the address. But then it says starting after 6 o'clock the night before the first date, you can confirm your reporting instructions daily by calling this number or via the e-juror web page from the website of the Michigan Eastern District of the Federal Courts. And then there's a little badge, a little piece of paper that you can kind of clip out. It's perforated, and it says juror, participant number, pool number, sequential number, but it does not have your name on the juror tag. Okay, your name is not on there, but your name is elsewhere on this document. It says questions, read the information included with this summons for further instructions. And then it says instructions. Complete the questionnaire. Federal law requires you complete a juror qualification questionnaire within 10 days of receiving the summons. They tell you how to do that. And by the way, it took me about 5 minutes, literally 5 minutes. Confirm your status and receive your reporting instructions. 6 o'clock the night before, the day of your first day, you can call and confirm your reporting instructions by either calling or going to the website. You'll need your 9-digit participant number from the card above. And then it says, check your status via phone or internet each evening until you are instructed to report or inform that your service is over. Then report to jury duty when instructed to do so. Please note that all persons and their belongings are subject to security screening when entering the courthouse. You must present one form of photo ID. Directions to the courthouse are on the back of this summons. And then it says, failure to respond and or appear as directed may result in a fine of not more than $1,000 or imprisonment of not more than 3 days or community service or any combination thereof. You can get 3 days in jail and $1,000 fine and community service. So I know people say, Steve, they can't prove I got a piece of mail. That wasn't certified, was it? You didn't sign for it. It was stuck in your mailbox. Yeah, it's interesting. The courts kind of take the position that you get your mail. And if you don't, like I said, they might drag you in and make you explain why you don't answer your mail. And you can tell the judge, a federal judge, that you don't get mail. You didn't get it. You never saw it. The judge will say, well, while you're here, hand him another summons. Then it tells you how you can park and where to park. And then it says there's prohibited items in the building you cannot bring in. And it does say, by the way, that jurors may bring cell phones into the courthouse, but they must be turned off at all times. Judges have the option to prohibit cell phones in their courtroom. So it might be that they're going to tell you that when you're back in the deliberation room, before you're deliberating, but just between like breaks and so on, that you can check your messages and so on. Or obviously, as you're walking out of the building, go get lunch, you have your phone with you rather than having to run to your car and get it. Now, here's the interesting thing. Please use good judgment when dressing for jury duty. Conservative dress is recommended, but not appropriate. T-shirts, tank tops, sweatpants, sweatshirts, hoodies, shorts, flip-flops, and plunging necklines. And I was all prepared to wear that dashing new plunging neckline I'd just gotten, but I can't wear it now. But now, there's more information to give you here. And it does say, again, from the United States District Court, Eastern District of Michigan, you must complete a juror qualification questionnaire within 10 days of receipt of the summons. You are legally obligated to do so. To complete the questionnaire online, do this, go there, answer the questions. If you do not have internet access, you can call and they will mail you a paper questionnaire you can fill out upon request. Then, reporting to the courthouse. Do not report unless e-juror indicates a specific date and time to report or the recorded instructions tell you to report for jury duty. Jurors who report for service without being instructed to do so will not be paid. So to check via online, you do this, blah, 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 blah. Then it says, if the message says you are not selected, call back, you are required to call back. If you are told that you are rescheduled, you will continue to check the automated system again for reporting instructions as directed by the instructions. If it tells you to appear, report the courthouse as directed, see the court's website or the back of the summons for directions and parking information. Why did I receive this summons? They buried the lead. Your name was randomly selected based on driver's license records, state ID records, and voting records from the state of Michigan. Jurors serving in this division of the U.S. District Court are selected from the following counties, and it lists 4 counties. And keep in mind that federal courts cover larger areas than, say, circuit courts, at least in Michigan. I'm talking about state circuit courts. How long will I serve? You will be on call for a 2-week period. This does not mean that you will appear every day during those 2 weeks. The period of service begins on the date listed on the enclosed summons. If you are selected as a juror for a trial, please be aware that most trials range from 4 days to 7 days. Of course, it could be a nightmare and you wind up sitting on a trial like, I don't know, Johnny Depp, Amber Heard, which goes a little bit longer than 4 to 7 days. But that's another story altogether. I also don't think that's federal court. It says here, I've been selected to report for jury selection. What will I need to bring? Government-issued ID and your summons. There's no food service in the courthouse, so please bring a snack if you'd like. A refrigerator and microwave are available for use. What should I wear? We've already talked about that. What items are prohibited? Weapons and so on. You may bring a cell phone, but it must remain off. Then it says, can I stay overnight? Not in the courthouse, but near the courthouse. Jurors who reside more than 65 miles one way from the courthouse may come the night before, and the court will reimburse your lodging and subsistence expenses up to $155. A hotel receipt is required for reimbursement. Do I get paid for jury duty? Jurors receive $50 a day for each day of attendance, round-trip mileage at the current government rate, and reimbursement for actual parking up to $12. You will not be reimbursed for taxi or ride share. How can I be excused or deferred? You must first complete and submit the juror qualification form, and then you may ask for the excuse. It tells you how to do that. And then it says again, what happens if I don't report? And this is in all caps. Jurors who fail to appear and who are not excused or deferred by the court may be held in contempt of court. Contempt penalties may include a $1,000 fine, 3 days imprisonment, community service, or any combination thereof, as provided by federal statute. Federal statute is 28, section 1866, sub G. So, here's what happened. I got this notice about a month ago or so. I blocked the 2 weeks out of my calendar and said, jury duty, jury duty. And then the night before the first day, that is Sunday night, I log in and it says, you are excused for this week. You might be needed next week. So I'm like, cool. So I gained that whole week back. I came back. I got this week back. At the end of the week, I logged in, checked the second week, and it goes, second week, you're not needed. Thank you for your service. You are now excused from jury duty. Didn't have to go, not one bit. But I had to keep them blocked out of my calendar, and I had backup plans about what I was going to do if I was going to have to go serve jury duty, because there's all kinds of stuff I do every day that I'd have to get taken care of either during different times of the day or have other people cover for me. And so I can tell you this is the fourth time I've been called. I've been called once by federal court this time, twice by circuit courts, and once by a district court. In Michigan, district courts are smaller, think of municipal courts, but they're smaller courts. And the only time I've ever actually had to go to court where I was going to be potentially a juror was a circuit court about 6 years ago now. And I got called and they said, we need you. So I went to court, dressed up, the whole shooting match. And we're sitting in the big room. And the way they did it in that courthouse was a bunch of people, big pool of people. And then they would call people off randomly, off your numbers. And then you go to a courtroom. And then they would grab groups of people and do questioning of the jurors by the attorneys. And it's called voir dire. And they would question each person. And I got even picked to do that. So I'm sitting in the jury box being asked questions by the two attorneys who are handling this case. And the judge is overseeing the process. Now, I've picked jurors before. And I've also taught trial practice where you help students in law school learn all about trials, including picking juries. And that's actually one of the earliest chapters in the book. And so it's kind of interesting because as they're going down the line, I'm hearing the questions they're asking. They're generally asking, where are you from? What do you do, for a living and so on and so forth. And so when they got to me, I don't remember which one, but there's a man and a woman, attorneys, one for the plaintiff, one for the defendant. And it involved an auto accident, from what I understand. And one of them said, what do you do for a living? And I said, well, I'm an attorney, but I also write books, and I've got a channel on YouTube. And at the time, I had a channel, but it was not anywhere near as large as it is now. And one of them said, what kind of law do you practice? And I said, consumer protection, primarily lemon law. And I said, have you ever handled an auto negligence case? I said, no, I haven't. Not at all. Zero. Don't do that. And then one of them asked me something else. And it was not a non sequitur for me to say, by the way, I taught law school for 10 years. And the funny thing was that one of them said, what classes did you teach? I said, well, I taught consumer protection and trial practice for 10 years. Trial practice for 10 years. And I actually saw the other attorney do one of these, make a mental note, and actually make a physical note. And they excused me. And now there were other attorneys, believe it or not, in the group of people, and one of them got selected. But I didn't. And I am convinced that the reason I didn't get selected was when I said I taught trial practice for 10 years. Because already up to that point, I had been critiquing in my mind both of these attorneys and the horrible job they're doing in jury selection. And it was interesting because if I got to serve on a jury, I think I would enjoy the process to some degree because I've never been on that side of the case before. But also, having taught trial practice, I do have a slightly different way of watching how attorneys behave in court. And so it would have been kind of fun to later on do a video or two about what I saw in court. I'd have to wait till the trial is over, obviously. But after the trial is over, do a video and say, here's what the case is all about. Here's how it happened. Here's the insider's view of what went down. And by the way, here are some of my observations on how the attorneys were handling themselves in court. But like I said, I'm pretty sure when I said I taught trial practice for 10 years, that the response was, okay, we don't want this guy on the jury. He'll be critiquing us. So, anywho, the point here is that I got the package in the mail. This is the fourth time I've been told I might be needed for jury duty. Unfortunately, they didn't need me, and so I didn't have to go. Could have made $50 a day and made that sweet $12 reimbursement on parking. But I've talked to people before. I know people who get called a lot. I've got a brother who's been called so many times it's a joke. And we don't live near each other, so he's in a slightly different jurisdiction, and for whatever reason, he gets picked on all the time. He gets picked for jury duty. I know other people who say, I've never been called, ever. And I vote, I've got a driver's license. Like, who knows? Who knows? And so I don't know how to explain how you might get selected randomly like that. But you have to understand, when you get the notice of attendance for jury duty, your knee-jerk response is, oh God, there goes 2 weeks of my life I can't get back, if you got called. And on some levels, yes. But remember that if you were ever accused of a crime, or you ever had a lawsuit, and you wanted a jury to decide your fate or what you're entitled to, you want jurors showing up. And ask yourself what happens if everybody who can bails and you're left with whoever's left over. Do you want them doing it, or do you want the larger pool to begin with? I'd like the larger pool myself. So that's the story. No jury duty for me, but I was willing to go. Maybe next time. Questions or comments, put them below. Let's talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching Lehto's Law. Age is something that does not matter unless you are a cheese.